Eric Cartman is the most inventive sociopath in television history. Every scheme, every manipulation, every act of violence reveals a 9-year-old operating with zero empathy and infinite creativity in causing harm. That's why today, I'm breaking down the 8 worst things Eric Cartman has ever done, and why each one still has fans talking decades later. Starting with one that proves exploitation is just another Tuesday for him. Special Olympics. Cartman learns the Special Olympics awards a $1,000 cash prize to the top athlete. His immediate response is to fake a mental disability and steal it from handicapped kids. Not a flicker of hesitation, and I can prove it. In Season 8's Up the Down Steroid, Cartman's preparation montage is set to push it to the limit from Scarface. He reads textbooks on disabilities, rides the short bus taking field notes, gives himself a deliberately awful haircut, studies a Kid Rock performance for behavioral cues, and straps on a bicycle helmet so tight it deforms his face. He modifies his shoes to simulate a clubfoot. When asked about his condition at registration, his mom flatly says he's retarded while Cartman shouts incoherently. The entire performance is calculated to deceive registration officials who work with disabled children every single day. Here's where it gets dark. Kyle pulls Cartman aside for a genuine heart-to-heart and actually calls himself Cartman's friend. He tells Cartman, with visible concern, that he will go to hell for this. It's one of the only times Kyle shows real worry for Cartman's soul, rather than just frustration at his behavior. Cartman dismisses it instantly because Kyle is Jewish, and therefore unqualified to lecture on morality. The punchline lands perfectly. Cartman is so obese and unathletic that he finishes dead last in every single event. The actual disabled athletes crush him without effort. He receives only a Consolation Spirit Award, a $50 gift certificate to Shakey's Pizza. Then, with breathtaking audacity, he claims he faked the disability specifically to teach his friend Jimmy a lesson about steroid abuse. Nobody buys it for a second, but if you think exploiting disabled kids for pizza money is bad, wait until you hear about the time he started an actual genocide over a school presentation. Ginger kids. Cartman delivers a class presentation declaring that children with red hair, freckles, and pale skin are evil, disgusting, inhuman creatures afflicted with a made-up disease called gingivitis. He claims they have no souls and cannot survive in sunlight. The presentation triggers school-wide discrimination overnight. Ginger kids are thrown out of the cafeteria and forced to eat in the hallway. Stan, Kyle, and Kenny decide to teach Cartman a lesson in empathy. They sneak into his room, dye his hair red, bleach his skin, and apply henna freckles. Kyle beats Cartman unconscious in the process. The plan is simple: make Cartman experience discrimination firsthand so he understands how it feels. It backfires catastrophically. Rather than learning empathy, Cartman immediately pivots from persecutor to supremacist. He founded the Ginger Separatist Movement, a group that starts peaceful and rapidly escalates to something resembling a fusion of the Black Panthers and the Hitler Youth. He declares gingers the master race. His followers beat up a brunette actress who played Little Orphan Annie for not really being a ginger. Cartman's rallying cry becomes the thesis of his entire worldview. The only way to fight hate is with more hate, but here's where it gets genuinely disturbing. The endgame isn't equality or acceptance, it's genocide. Cartman plans to exterminate all non-ginger children using a lava pit at the airport Hilton Hotel's Sunset Room, which has been set up alongside a refreshment buffet. Kids across South Park are kidnapped in the night. Stan and Kenny are captured last, and Kyle is chosen as the first to die specifically because he's been Cartman's primary target for years. Kyle saves himself by whispering the truth. Cartman was never a ginger, it was makeup. Terrified that his followers will turn on him, Cartman instantly fabricates a tearful epiphany about tolerance and sings Hand in Hand until the gingers release everyone. Kyle mutters that Cartman is a manipulative asshole. Cartman agrees cheerfully because at least he's alive. The episode also spawned real-world consequences. The gingers have no souls meme entered popular culture. Schools reported actual Kick a Ginger Day incidents where red-headed students were physically attacked. When your cartoon character's bigotry leaks into reality and causes real children to get assaulted, you've created something genuinely dangerous. But at least Cartman's hatred stayed focused on school-aged kids, unlike the time he decided to exploit literal newborns for profit. Crack babies. Kyle sees a Sarah McLachlan commercial about crack-addicted babies and volunteers at a hospital hoping to help. He discovers Cartman is already there, not to help, but to run a business. Along with Craig, Clyde, and Butters, Cartman has founded the Crack Baby Athletic Association. The product is simple, filming crack-addicted newborns fighting each other over a small rock of crack, then selling the footage as entertainment content. The babies claw at each other in their incubators while Cartman films and commentates like a sports announcer. He is treating infants suffering from drug addiction like gladiators in an arena. The satire sharpens when Cartman visits the University of Colorado dressed as a 19th century Southern plantation owner, complete with white suit and hat, to learn how the NCAA avoids paying student athletes. He refers to the university's basketball players as slaves with barely concealed glee, asking administrators to teach him their business model. The dean throws him out, but not before Cartman absorbs the lesson. Exploit labor, pay nothing, claim it's for the workers' benefit. Here's the thing. The most disturbing element isn't Cartman, it's Kyle's corruption. Initially horrified, Kyle gradually gets drawn into the operation and begins sounding exactly like Cartman, rationalizing exploitation with phrases like, "We're not the ones who made them crack babies." Stan watches his best friend transform in real time and calls him out repeatedly. But the gravitational pull of Cartman's logic proves almost inescapable. Kyle goes from volunteering out of compassion to calculating profit margins on the suffering of drug-addicted newborns in less than a week. They negotiate a deal with EA Sports for a video game. Kyle pushes to spend 30% on a state-of-the-art orphanage for the crack babies. Cartman agrees, but only for the PR value. In the end, EA Sports screws them with a contract that gives EA full ownership, and the boys receive nothing. It's exploitation of the exploiters, turtles all the way down. The episode was nominated for an Emmy because its satire of NCAA exploitation was so surgically precise. The Supreme Court's 2021 NCAA versus Alston decision later validated its central argument about unpaid athletes. But beyond the social commentary, Cartman is exploiting the most defenseless humans imaginable. Drug-addicted newborns who literally cannot consent, speak, or understand what's happening to them. The plantation owner's costume removes any ambiguity about what the show is saying. This isn't clever entrepreneurship. It's slavery with extra steps. But if you think exploiting babies is dark, wait until you hear about the time Cartman tried to build an actual fascist movement using a Mel Gibson movie, Passion of the Jew. After watching Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ 34 times, Cartman weaponizes it. He dares Kyle to watch the film, claiming it proves everybody hates the Jews. Kyle watches, is horrified by the graphic depiction of Jesus' torture, and has nightmares in which he and other Jews laugh while killing Jesus. Shaken, Kyle tells Cartman he was right all along. Cartman's response? He drops to his knees before a Braveheart poster and prays to Mel Gibson, vowing to organize the masses. What follows is Cartman's most explicitly genocidal scheme. He founded Mel Gibson's The Passion Fan Club, which well-meaning Christians attend, thinking it's a faith group. Cartman speaks in escalating code. At one meeting, he tells followers it's best they don't talk out loud about it until they have most of them on the trains heading to the camps. The oblivious churchgoers nod along, believing he's speaking metaphorically about spiritual renewal. He tells them to bring friends before the cleansing begins. Nobody questions him because he's wrapping fascism in the language of Christian devotion. At a rally outside the theater, Cartman, now wearing a brown Hitler-esque uniform, shouts actual Nazi slogans in German that the crowd mistakes for Aramaic, the language from the film. The entire town goose steps through South Park, cheerfully chanting phrases that translate to, "It's time for revenge, we must exterminate the Jews." In his bedroom mirror, he practices additional phrases. "Kill the Jews, we can't stand still until they're all dead." He's not improvising hatred, he's rehearsing it like a theater production. Here's where it gets weird. Stan and Kenny visit the real Mel Gibson in Malibu and find him completely unhinged, a sadomasochist in his underwear begging them to torture him, chasing them in the Mad Max tanker truck wearing Braveheart face paint. Gibson crashes into the South Park Theater, emerges ranting, smears his own feces on a building, and defecates on Cartman's face while Cartman lies prostrate at his idol's feet. The message is clear. Cartman's hero is literally insane, and Cartman doesn't care. The Anti-Defamation League praised the episode. The Jewish Daily Forward called it perhaps the most biting critique of The Passion to date. What elevates it beyond the Ginger Kids episode is the sophistication of the manipulation. Cartman doesn't recruit angry people. He recruits kind, church-going people and redirects their faith toward hate without them realizing it. That's not just bigotry, that's demagogy. And that's exactly how real fascist movements begin. You don't sell hatred directly. You wrap it in something people already love. But at least Cartman's genocide was hypothetical, unlike the time he tortured a child for over a week just to go to a restaurant. Casa Bonita. Kyle's mom is taking him and 3 friends to Casa Bonita, a real restaurant in Lakewood, Colorado, described as the Disneyland of Mexican restaurants, for his birthday. Stan and Kenny are invited. For the 4th spot, Kyle picks Butters, explicitly because Cartman has spent years tormenting him for being Jewish. When Cartman denies ever making fun of Kyle's heritage, the show plays a 13-second supercut of clips from previous episodes proving otherwise. Cartman is devastated. Casa Bonita is his favorite place in the world. His room is covered in memorabilia, stickers, and a calendar marking the date. A single tear runs down his face while he stares at a brochure at lunch. Then, the scheming begins. First, he tries being nice, which he interprets as putting on a nice sweater. Kyle tells him that's not being nice, that's just putting on a nice sweater. Cartman, genuinely confused, says he doesn't understand the difference. Kyle's response is quietly devastating. I know you don't. Cartman then asks Jimmy to teach him kindness, immediately beats up Jimmy in front of Kyle, and claims he was defending Kyle's mother's honor. When manipulation fails, Cartman delivers a surprisingly moving apology that earns Kyle's concession. If Butters can't go, Cartman can have his spot. This is all Cartman needs. He tells Butters a meteor is about to destroy Earth and locks him in Jimbo's old bomb shelter. Butters believes every word. The disappearance triggers a town-wide panic. Amber alerts go out. Kyle postpones his party for a week. Police begin searching bomb shelters. When they get close, Cartman blindfolds Butters with a box, moves him to a gas station, and locks him in an abandoned refrigerator, which a garbage truck promptly hauls to the city dump. Butters emerges believing he's wandering post-apocalyptic Earth, finds a stray dog, and tries to rebuild civilization while singing Chicago's "If You Leave Me Now." He's not just scared. He thinks humanity has ended and he's the last survivor, processing genuine trauma while Cartman eats sopapillas. At Casa Bonita, the truth catches up. When police close in, Cartman makes a frantic dash through the restaurant, cramming every experience into his final moments of freedom. Sopapillas, cliff divers, Black Bart's cave. He leaps off the decorative waterfall and is pulled from the water by officers. A cop lists his crimes, causing a town-wide panic, losing his friends, and a week in juvenile hall. He asks the obvious question, was it worth it? Cartman, floating blissfully on his back. Totally. This episode, rated 9.2 on IMDb, is chilling precisely because of how trivial the motivation is. Cartman doesn't torture Butters over revenge, money, or ideology. He does it for a birthday dinner at a Mexican restaurant. He traumatizes the most innocent character in the show for over a week and accepts juvenile hall without a moment's regret. The totally is the most disturbing single word in South Park history because it confirms what the audience feared. For Cartman, this calculus will always work out. But if you think tormenting one child is bad, wait until you hear about the time he teamed up with a cosmic horror god and destroyed an entire city. C-T-U-U. The boys form Coon and Friends, a child superhero group led by Cartman as the Coon. When a BP-style oil spill rips a hole into another dimension and unleashes Lovecraftian monsters, including Cthulhu himself, the group tries to help, but Cartman's leadership style, which involves scratching classmates and demanding sole credit, gets him kicked out of his own team. This is the inciting incident, being excluded from a children's superhero club. Cartman finds Cthulhu sulking at the airport, where the elder god has defecated on the runway and delayed flights. Cthulhu initially ignores him, so Cartman deploys his secret weapon, weaponized cuteness. In a scene directly parodying May and Totoro from Studio Ghibli's My Neighbor Totoro, Cartman introduces himself as the Little Coon, rubs Cthulhu's belly, and bonds with the cosmic horror through sheer adorableness. He forms a new Coon and Friends, trademarked, with membership of 2, himself and an interdimensional god of madness. Then comes the revenge tour. Cartman rides Cthulhu through the sky and directs him to destroy a synagogue, targeting Jewish people. Then, they flatten San Francisco, eliminating hippies. Then, they massacre Justin Bieber along with his entire fan base at a concert. He narrates each atrocity as ridding the world of evil and holds a press conference afterward, plugging $14.95 t-shirts. When a reporter points out that an entire concert audience was just killed, Cartman smiles and says, Coon and Friends are happy to help, but here's the kicker. He banishes his former teammates, the real Coon and Friends, to R'lyeh, Cthulhu's dark dimension, for the crime of not letting him be in charge. Kenny, revealed as Mysterion, whose power is immortality, repeatedly kills himself to escape R'lyeh and stop Cartman. The trilogy resolves when Mintberry Crunch, an actual alien with real powers, drags Cthulhu back to his dimension. Cartman is locked in a holding cell. The scale here is what separates this from Cartman's other schemes. He's not not tormenting one person or one town. He's leveling an entire city and committing mass murder using a cosmic entity, all because children voted him out of a club. The Coon trilogy also reveals something essential about Cartman. He genuinely believes he's the hero. He's not suppressing guilt or rationalizing after the fact. In his mind, destroying San Francisco and massacring Bieber fans is objectively good, and anyone who disagrees is the villain. The show explicitly frames him as more evil than Cthulhu. The Elder God is just a weapon. Cartman is the one choosing targets. He's weaponizing an entity that exists beyond human morality and pointing it at people he personally dislikes. The gap between the pettiness of his motivation, superhero club drama, and the enormity of his response, genocide via cosmic horror, might be the single most Cartman ratio in the show's history. Nobody talks about this, but Cartman killed more people in this trilogy than in every other episode combined. And he did it because kids wouldn't let him be the leader of a pretend superhero team. But at least those victims died quickly, unlike what he did to Kyle in an act of biological warfare that still shocks fans today. Tonsil? Trouble. A routine tonsillectomy goes wrong. Hell's Pass Hospital botches Cartman's blood transfusion, a 1 in a billion fluke, and accidentally infects him with HIV. At school, Mr. Mackey gently informs the boys and asks them to be sensitive. Kyle walks out of the room and bursts out laughing. Butters thinks he's crying. He's not. Kyle finds it deeply, cosmically funny that after years of Cartman inflicting suffering on everyone around him, and specifically after years of Cartman making AIDS jokes at Kyle's expense, karma has finally arrived. Cartman is furious. He holds a benefit concert, but nobody shows except Butters and Jimmy. AIDS isn't trendy anymore. Cancer is the cause du jour. Elton John was supposed to perform, but went to a cancer benefit instead, so Jimmy Buffett plays in his place, which enrages Cartman further. Kyle keeps laughing. The HIV-positive puns start flowing. I'm not just sure, I'm HIV positive. Then Cartman crosses the line that makes this entry one of his worst. He sneaks into Kyle's bedroom at night, with Butters' unknowing help, draws his own HIV-infected blood into a syringe, and drips it into Kyle's mouth while he sleeps. He casually mentions he's done this, snuck into Kyle's room dozens of times. Kyle is diagnosed with HIV and immediately knows who's responsible. He confronts Cartman on the playground and beats him savagely until Mr. Mackey intervenes. Here's where it gets even more disturbing. The school's response is a masterpiece of institutional failure. Mr. Mackey asks Cartman to apologize for giving Kyle HIV, and Kyle to apologize for tattling. Equal blame for biological warfare and reporting biological warfare. Kyle, vibrating with fury, goes to Cartman's house and threatens to destroy everything he owns. When he picks up Cartman's Xbox 360, Cartman desperately reveals he's been researching Magic Johnson, who has survived with HIV since 1991. They fly to Magic Johnson's house, getting free airline tickets by claiming to have cancer since AIDS is too retro for sympathy. They discover Johnson sleeps surrounded by enormous piles of cash. Scientists test the theory and find that $180,000 injected directly into the bloodstream neutralizes the virus. A razor-sharp satire of healthcare inequality. The cure makes worldwide news. Aid workers cheerfully inform impoverished Africans the fight against AIDS is over. They just need to inject themselves with piles of cash they don't have. Kyle and Cartman are cured. Cartman declares them even. Kyle's final line, "I'm still breaking your Xbox." Deliberately infecting someone with HIV is a real crime. Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in most jurisdictions. But what elevates this beyond the legal classification is the motive. Scott Tenorman humiliated Cartman repeatedly before the revenge. Kyle's crime was laughing. That's it. He found irony funny, and Cartman's response was to give him a life-threatening disease while he slept. The scene of Cartman creeping through Kyle's window, drawing blood from his own arm, and dripping it into his sleeping friend's mouth plays like a horror movie. The episode aired to 3.07 million viewers and remains one of the most cited examples of disproportionate Cartman retaliation. Watch Mojo ranked it the number 2 worst thing Cartman has ever done. Number 1, of course, is the incident that redefined him from bratty sitcom kid to genuine television psychopath. Scott Tenorman, this is the one. The moment that redefined Eric Cartman from bratty sitcom kid to genuine television psychopath. Rated 9.6 on IMDb. the highest-rated South Park episode ever, and named the best sitcom episode of all time by Vulture. This is the gold standard of animated evil. Every Cartman atrocity that followed exists in this episode's shadow. The setup is almost comically small. Ninth grader Scott Tenorman tricks Cartman into buying his pubic hair for $16.12, convincing him it means he's hit puberty. When Cartman realizes he's been scammed and demands a refund, Scott humiliates him further, making him squeal like a piggy, burning the money in front of him, and showing a video of Cartman's humiliation to the entire town. Kenny literally dies laughing. His ghost floats upward, still cackling. Cartman snaps, but he doesn't lash out immediately. He plans. The revenge scheme has 4 interlocking layers, each depending on the others. First, Cartman writes to Radiohead, Scott's favorite band, claiming Scott is a dying fan with cancer in his ass, luring them to South Park. Second, he tells Stan and Kyle a fake plan involving a trained pony biting off Scott's penis at a chili cook-off, deliberately knowing they'll betray him and warn Scott. Third, Scott, tipped off by Stan and Kyle, sends his parents to the farmer's ranch to rescue the pony and neutralize Cartman's supposed scheme. Fourth, Cartman has already tipped off Farmer Denkins about violent pony rustlers on his property. When Scott's parents arrive, Denkins shoots and kills them both. While police respond to the shooting, Cartman steals the bodies. He butchers them, cooks the remains into chili, and enters it in the town chili cook-off. At the event, Scott triumphantly feeds Cartman chili laced with pubic hair. His countermove. Cartman already knows. He's been eating chef's chili the entire time. Then he asks Scott how his chili tastes. Scott says it's great. Cartman reveals the ingredients. Your mom is in the chili. Your dad is in the chili. Scott finds his mother's finger, still wearing her ring, in the bowl. He vomits. He sobs. At that precise moment, Radiohead walks up, sees the crying teenager, and calls him a little crybaby and totally not cool. Every person Scott admires, every pillar of his identity, collapses simultaneously. Cartman delivers the kill shot. He walks up to Scott's tear-streaked face and licks the tears directly off his cheeks. Oh, the tears of unfathomable sadness. Yummy, yummy, you guys! Then, nah, I made you eat your parents. Stan's quiet response has become one of South Park's most iconic lines. Dude, I think it might be best for us to never piss Cartman off again. A later episode reveals the final twist. Scott Tenorman's father, Jack Tenorman, was Cartman's biological father. Cartman didn't just kill 2 innocent people and feed them to their son. He unknowingly killed his own father and fed him to his half-brother. The revenge is for $16.12. The response is double homicide, involuntary cannibalism, and psychological annihilation, orchestrated by a 4th grader who weaponized his own friend's predictable morality as part of the trap. Trey Parker and Matt Stone have said this episode permanently changed the character. Before it, Cartman was annoying and selfish. After it, he was something else entirely. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.